In recent years, New Zealand's immigration policy has undergone a number of key changes. One of the biggest updates was the replacement of the Essential Skills Work Visa with the AEWV or Accredited Employer Work Visa. With New Zealand opening its borders to more overseas migrants, now is the ideal time for anyone considering relocating. In this video, we'll be taking an in-depth look at the Accredited Employer Work Visa scheme. With this visa, you can work full-time in New Zealand for an accredited employer. You can study up to 3 months in a year. There's an opportunity to support your partner and dependent children so they can join you in New Zealand. And if you're eligible, this visa can provide a pathway to obtaining permanent residence. I'll be showing you an overview of the process for applying for one of these work visas, as well as some useful hints if you're considering moving and working here. This type of visa applies to anyone looking to work in New Zealand, including new hires and employees who want to extend their current visa. This is an employer-sponsored visa, which means your job offer must come from an employer who is accredited with Immigration New Zealand. Essentially, there are 3 stages that both employers and migrants must complete in order to obtain the Accredited Employer Work Visa. The first step is accreditation. Employers in New Zealand must be approved by Immigration NZ if they wish to support a migrant worker. For an employer to be approved accreditation, they must be a genuinely operating business or organisation. When considering whether an organisation is viable and genuine, Immigration NZ will look at whether the employer has made a loss over the last 2 years. They will assess if the business has had a positive cash flow each month for the last 6 months, and will check if the business has enough capital or external investment to remain viable and ongoing. An employer should show that they can meet at least one of these financial requirements. Additionally, the employer must also show that they have provided information about the local community and services to their migrant workers to support their integration into the country. This can include things like helping migrants out with accommodation options, showing them how to access healthcare services, and providing them with information for obtaining an IRD tax number from Inland Revenue, which is our tax department here in New Zealand. Finally, the employer must be compliant with specific immigration, employment and business standards. This means they must not have committed any breaches or provide Immigration NZ with false or misleading information. Obtaining employer accreditation is the responsibility of the employer, and as such, it's the employer who pays for it. Before negotiating with an employer and accepting any job offer to work in New Zealand, it's recommended you check to see if the employer is in fact accredited. The Immigration New Zealand website has a useful tool for checking this. You can search for any accredited employer by entering their company or trading name into the search field. In this example, I've searched Fonterra, which is New Zealand's largest exporter of dairy products. As you can see here, the tool has produced one result, showing their trading name as Fonterra Cooperative Group Limited. It shows their business number, and it confirms this organisation is currently accredited to 4th of October 2024. By using this tool, you can be assured that the employer you are considering applying with has been approved by Immigration NZ to hire overseas workers. I've included a link to this tool in the video description for you to check out when you are applying for jobs. The second step is the job check. Employers who are accredited must have a job check approved by Immigration New Zealand for any vacancy the employer needs to fill. So what is the job check? It's basically a review into the role that's being offered. Immigration NZ wants to make sure that there are no New Zealanders available to do the job. Here in New Zealand, we aim to support local employment opportunities and ensure employers are offering attractive wages to our fellow citizens before they try to recruit migrants. It also helps ensure migrants who are on an AEWV are mostly filling skilled roles. For a job to be approved, it must be a full-time position offered of at least 30 hours a week, and the job must offer at or above the median wage rate. The current median wage in New Zealand is $29.66 per hour. This is the magic number. If you're not paid at or above this amount, you will likely not get a work visa. There are exceptions. If the proposed employment is for an occupation that is on the exemption list, then the median wage requirement does not apply. Exemptions to the median wage threshold include sectors like construction, tourism, and hospitality. However, many of these types of jobs still have minimum wage thresholds. For example, in the tourism and hospitality sector, you'll have to earn at least $28.18 per hour. These rates are reviewable and subject to change over time. When applying for a job check, employers must provide to Immigration NZ the job title, location of the work, an acceptable job offer, a job description, and an employment agreement. They must also show evidence that they have advertised the position for at least 2 weeks on a national job-seeking website like seek.co.nz or TradeMe, or other channel where suitable New Zealanders are able to apply. The job listing must close prior to making a job check application with Immigration New Zealand, and the job check application must be submitted within 90 days from closing of the advertisement. If the migrant's occupation is on the green list, or the job pays twice the median wage, then the employer is not required to advertise. The employer also needs to submit the ANSCO code that best matches the job they are offering. The Australian and New Zealand Standard Classification of Occupations, or ANSCO for short, is used to classify skills-based jobs in New Zealand. It gives details of the qualification needed for the role, the number of years of work experience, as well as a list of tasks someone in that position is expected to perform as part of their employment. ANSCO is an important function of the process, as the immigration officer assessing the application will take into account whether the minimum qualifications, work experience, and skills that are advertised by the employer in their job listing are in fact necessary to perform the work. They will do this by comparing the advertised role to the closest matching ANSCO occupation. Again, it's the employer who is required to submit and pay for the job check application. If the application is approved, a migrant can then apply for an accredited employer work visa. And now we come to the third and final step, the work visa application and migrant check. After the job check is approved, Immigration NZ will invite the employer to provide the migrant's name and email address. This will generate an email to the migrant with a unique link. You must use that link to begin the work visa application. In terms of the requirements, you will need to complete an INZ 1015 or equivalent online form. You will pay the $750 New Zealand dollar application fee. You will need your passport, which must be valid for at least 3 months after you plan to leave New Zealand. You will need one acceptable photograph that clearly shows your face and meets all the photo requirements. You must provide a police certificate that is less than 6 months old, confirming you are of good character and haven't committed any serious crimes. You will need a chest x-ray and general medical certificates confirming you are in good health. You will have copies of your qualifications and evidence of your work experience if you need to be qualified to do the work you have been offered. You must not be subject to any stand-down period if you have been working in New Zealand in a role that pays less than the median wage. If you have applied for specialised work like electrical engineering, teaching or nursing, you may also need occupational registration. You must show that you have genuine intent to work in New Zealand. When considering a migrant's genuine intent, Immigration NZ will consider whether the applicant is likely to remain in New Zealand lawfully, whether they are likely to breach the conditions of their visa, and if they are able to return to their home country when their visa expires. The immigration officer will consider all the evidence you have provided, including any information they have about your personal circumstances, such as the strength of family relationships you have in NZ or your home country, and any financial and work commitments. They will also examine your previous applications you may have submitted to see if you have complied with your visa conditions and that you have not overstayed. As part of your application, you will need to produce evidence of the job offer. This offer must be in writing and include a copy of the employment agreement and job description. You will then be required to enter the job check number from the accredited employer who has offered you employment. This is very important as the immigration officer will check to see if your employment details are the same as those approved as part of the employer's job check application at step 2. They will assess details such as the location of the job title, hours of work, the pay, and who the employer is to ensure everything is the same. Please understand that the job check and migrant check are linked. If there are any discrepancies between step 2 and 3, there's a chance your application may be declined. It's really important to make sure that your CV, which outlines your qualifications, skills and work experience, together with the employer's advertisement, which states the duties expected of you, and the ANSCO, which classifies the role according to a set number of tasks, closely matches. Common problems that can emerge. Here we have Mr. Smith, who is looking for work as a retail manager. He finds a supermarket position advertised on Seek with a pay rate between $28 and $31 per hour. The employer explains in their advert that they are looking for someone with a diploma level qualification or at least 5 years of managerial experience in a supermarket or similar work environment. Mr. Smith does not have a qualification, but he does have 4 years of relevant work experience, which he can back up with reference letters from his past employers. He checks on Immigration New Zealand's website to see if the New Zealand employer is accredited, and is pleased to see that they are. He applies for the job and emails the employer his CV. The employer is impressed with Mr. Smith's CV and agrees to offer him the position at a pay rate of $34 per hour, well above the required median wage of $29.66. The employer closes the advertisement and submits the job check application to Immigration NZ, which is approved. Mr. Smith then receives an email link to apply for an accredited employer work visa. He provides all of his identity, health, character and employment related documents and pays the application fee. However, when the immigration officer assesses Mr. Smith's application, they see that the pay rate offered to Mr. Smith does not match the advertised amount that was approved from the job check. They also see that Mr. Smith does not have the required 5 years of managerial experience, which was initially advertised by the employer. Mr. Smith's application is therefore declined, and he does not get a work visa. As we can see from this example, it's really important that the application is done right from the start. From the immigration officer's perspective, the advertisement can be a deal breaker if it does not align with the chosen migrant's pay, skills, qualification and experience. Often, employers will need to re-advertise the positions before applying for a job check to avoid any such issues. This is why it's a good idea to have a lawyer assist with the application process. At Edmunds Marshall Lawyers in Matamata, New Zealand, our team of legal experts are committed to providing you with tailored legal advice to help you achieve your immigration goals. Whether you're an employer looking to hire overseas workers or a migrant looking to make New Zealand their home, we're here to help. For immigration inquiries, please email us at the email address in the description below. We'll be happy to assist you.